Shana Tova, good Yontif, everyone. Happy New Year 5786. It really is a great privilege to be able to welcome you, greet you all here today at Temple Emmanuel. So I want to begin with a timeless story from the book of Genesis, Genesis chapter 32, one that beautifully illustrates our theme of embracing transitions. You're going to hear over the High Holy Days a theme I'm trying to lift up. What does it mean to embrace newness? What does it mean to focus on what that transition might be? And what does it mean to do that together as a community? This won't be the first community, nor the first time this has happened in our experience as a people. For indeed, we'll see it even in Genesis chapter 32, where Jacob, Yaakov, after years of being separated from his brother Esau, stands alone in the quiet darkness, preparing for an uncertain encounter. In this mysterious night, Jacob wrestles with a presence. We're not sure what it was. Was it real or was it imagined? Was it a dream or something that happened right there and then? Was it even Jacob's own conscience, wrestling with his own consciousness? Their struggle, as described to us, is intense. Hand, foot, arm, torso, legs, all wrapped together. And then Jacob gets wounded in the side of Jacob's leg, down the leg. And Jacob won't even let go of this being at that time. As dawn breaks, the mysterious figure says, "Let me go, for I must return." And Jacob says, "No, I won't do that unless you give me a blessing." It's like a good example of Jewish chutzpah, a little bit of something, I don't know, I respect it. He's there with this thing, doesn't know what's going on, says, "Give me a blessing." So this mysterious figure blesses Jacob and says, "You are no longer Yaakov, the sneak, the one that sneaks around holding on to heels. You are now Yisrael. You are now the Yisra, the wrestler, Ale of God." That's a bit of our legacy. The story resonates with me personally, as I've experienced my own moments of wrestling with uncertainty and change. Perhaps you have had that in your lifetime, similar stories of personal struggle or triumph that you can relate to this narrative. During the High Holy Days, we use the term tshuva as the intention of the day. Translated as repentance or return, Rambam, in the 12th century, a Spanish Jewish philosopher, taught that tshuva occurs when a person moves from one distinct state to another. Today, as a community, we embark on a journey of transformation, aware that the Jewish tradition and our own stories are rich with this as well. We're going to come back and highlight a few of these over the next few minutes. But I want to ask you first to consider the three stages of transformation and transition. Ending, neutral period, and a new beginning. How many legends, how many stories, even experiences in your life can you think of have an ending, a wandering, and a new place? Our society often likes to think of life as either static or absolute, moving on an absolute upward trajectory. Yet, I like to observe that I'm not so sure it goes that way. And I think our tradition helps us understand transition and mindful transitioning as a pathway for real, true community growth. Now, the inspiration for my teaching this morning comes from William Bridges, who wrote the book, The Way of Transition. I happen to think that if that was not his given name, it really is a good one to take, because all he talks about is bridging from one thing to another thing in all of the books he's written about, from corporate to communities like churches and synagogues. Bridges views all of life as a series of transformations that occur at every level: personal, societal, and global. The paradox is that the stability that we might treasure right now was born from transition and radical change. No matter how comfortable the current feels, it was born from a moment of shaking things up and changing it. It was once new and unsettling. I don't imagine that there was a huge Jewish neighborhood right here when this synagogue opened up, and yet look what's happened in the years, in 75 years, this congregation has been able to exist in this neighborhood, transforming this very building into the home of prayer, into a place of tefillah. And I mean, even to the physicality of the place, I mentioned last night, I understand there used to be pews, and now there's chairs. I mean, little things like that, from the physical to how we are together. To truly grasp the essence of transformation, it's essential to distinguish transformation from change. We often hear the saying, people resist change. But change is essentially a situational adjustment. You know, I put in a new light bulb. It's brighter, or it's less bright, or it's whiter, or it's more yellow. A transition, on the other hand, is a deeper journey, one of letting go, exploring the unknown, and starting anew. William Bridges captures this beautifully when he highlights the often overlooked time spent in the neutral zone. But we know that well from our history. The bulk of our Torah, the bulk of what we talk about is wandering. Think about it. The bulk of what we talk about is when we're moving from one place to another, throughout all of Torah, and by the time we get to the one place we might sit still, what do? We roll the whole thing back to the beginning and start over again. Right back to Genesis, Garden of Eden. And we didn't stay there for very long. So he just shows us again and again. I mean, just think about all of our Jewish stories. Those moments of ending, wandering, new discovery. Though it might feel at times like a loss, it also opens up the door to valuable insights that enrich our experiences. So we're going to find a moment of ending. You're going to clean up, figure out what the value were at the end, and then come into this next stage of the neutral period. An unpredictable period that can feel like wandering through a wilderness. However, this phase is ripe with opportunity, much like the inspiring journeys of explorers in our human history, or even our Jewish history, like Abraham, like Moses and Miriam, the Israelites, like Esther, like Deborah, like Samson. Think about all of these people in our history and how we come into, it usually just opens up. There was something going on and it had to stop. And then our hero steps in. And then we get this period of we don't know how it's going to go exactly. You know, Moses, are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. 38 more years of doing this. But that was where we get Torah. So when we reach the new beginning, the true transformation made possible by our experiences in the neutral zone, out there in the desert, out there in the wilderness, the shift is beautifully illustrated in our biblical narratives, such as the transition from a nomadic way of life to a stable society, such as what it meant to leave with the Exodus, to go into the wilderness, to step into a new land. All of those moments in history for us. As we navigate our own life's journeys, let us wholeheartedly embrace change as a crucial part of our growth. While transformation can be challenging, each transition brings the promise of renewal and exciting new opportunities. Let's approach the changes and transformations here at Temple Bethel and here in Wakefield and here in Massachusetts and here in our world with a positive mindset, knowing that they can lead us to a brighter future. With the very energies that brought this building here alive, we're going to carry it through to the next generation. When we read our biblical stories, we can see our ancestors went through those transitions. Abraham and Sarah's story starts with their leaving homelands that we don't even know about, traveling through a wilderness, and winding up in the Canaan, winding up in the land of Israel. In the scene that we started with this morning, Jacob wrestles with the angel in the middle of the desert while he's finishing his time before he gets back to his family. And indeed, the paradigm of the Exodus from Egypt to the wilderness, to the discovery of Torah at Mount Sinai, to the beginning of a new promised land, might be the best example of what transformational experiences have been like for us for thousands of years. I don't know what it was like to wind up on the shores of Eastern Europe. I know the stories of my ancestors that escaped from the Holocaust, what it meant to end a chapter, come to the middle of nowhere, start over again, and find a new hope. Those patterns repeat themselves for us and for pretty much every people of the world. Not only for the individuals, but for communities of faith, including ours. These transitions occur at times like when one clergy departs and another one shows up, when one generation begins and another one matures, or when a congregation moves from one location to another. During these communal shifts, there's excitement with the new beginnings and uncertainty of seeking and finding a new way. The key challenge is how we handle the unexpected aspects of these transitions, like, let's just say, a wireless microphone that keeps popping and squeaking all throughout services. We'll work on it over time together. And how we embrace the uncertainty that lies ahead says how we will do probably as a community. Now, I love the story of the Wizard of Oz, and I particularly like the music that went along with the film production, and notably the piece Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I'm not sure if you know this, but the music was largely composed by two Jewish songwriters, Yip Harburg and Harold Arlen. No one's named their children Yip recently, have they? Who drew from their rich cultural backgrounds. Harburg's lyrics can be seen in this song in particular as a prayer for the survival of the Jewish people. When we reflect on the pogroms of Europe and the foreshadowing of the Holocaust that was going to come just moments after those songs were penned, while embodying still a hope for peace. Yet another example of a three-stage process. The song and story illustrate transformation and embrace new possibilities somewhere over the rainbow. Let's consider what a perfect year would look like for us. Though not everything will come to fruition, and it won't all look like rainbows and pots of gold, we can intentionally take those steps together. I hope in this new year ahead, with the great honor of leading this community, that we can forge our paths, yours, mine, and our world, in a transformational way to nurture a peace that strengthens us all, leading us from strength to strength, one step after the other. Shana Tova U'Mituka.